Okay, hello there. I believe I should be live. Let me just check real quick. Not sure. Doesn't look like I am quite yet. I just clicked it over here. What's going on? What's going on? Hmm. Maybe I got to. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. I just had to make sure. Like I said, I'm still getting used to doing this again. Having problems here, but I should be live. There's just a little lag. It's kind of a long lag though. It's like 30-second lag. That's crazy. Anyway, in case nobody has heard yet, today is a day of mourning, apparently. There's been a national tragedy. A war crime was committed. Claudine Gay was apparently forced to resign from Harvard as the president of Harvard, which I didn't realize was such a big deal, but apparently it is. Apparently, people are losing their fucking minds over this. And I don't really understand it. Like, it didn't seem like that big of an event to me, but apparently it is. I've seen people all over the kind of conservative wing of Twitter and YouTube and stuff talking about this like it's some monumental victory, and like they just I don't know, won World War II again or something. It's crazy. And then the people on the left are acting like it's the end of the damn world. Like, there are people just legitimately melting down and losing their shit over this. And I'm not sure exactly why. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I feel like it's a good thing. Yeah, sure. She did some bad stuff. She she was a plagiarist apparently, and it's not really good to be have a Harvard president that's a plagiarist. I don't think that's a great thing, you know, or a president of any university to have them be a plagiarist. That kind of is like a stain on the institution, I guess. And there were some arguments back and forth about the extent of her plagiarism and how egregious it was. But it's like, man, you better be about damn near perfect, I would think, if you're going to be the president of the institution, especially if it's like freaking Harvard. A lot of people, though, have said it was really egregious. I've looked at some of it, and some of what I've seen, it looked really bad. Other instances didn't look that bad. So to me, it just looked like actually what you had there was a lot of really minor cases of plagiarism, and then like a few exceptionally bad ones, which is that's not good. Like, I would call that bad. But anyway, we'll get on here. We're going to look at some of the responses to this. And of course, I guess I left out kind of the obvious thing was all the political stuff that happened since that congressional hearing or whatever it was, where they drug all the presidents of the universities, including her and some other presidents. Like, I think there was the president from MIT and someone else, I forget. And they brought them out and all asked them about their bullying and harassment policies as far as anti-Semitism goes. And she, Claudine Gay, famously was like really weirdly elusive on that question. She kept saying it was like context dependent and it sort of matters and all this stuff. It was really weird since Harvard is not like a big, free speech university. They're exceptionally restrictive when it comes to like what you can and can't say as far as like, offensive political rhetoric and stuff. Like, very restrictive. And they'll even like punish people or exclude them or whatever if they've said stuff when they were like teenagers and they find out about it. So they're very restrictive. But for some reason, she seemed to want to make an exception for people that were apparently calling for the genocide of Jews. So that's kind of odd. And so all of that sort of bubbled together, and there's a lot of calls for her to get fired. A lot of the staff at Harvard, the faculty, came out and was like, "No, no, no! Please don't fire her. I'll sign." Like, I don't remember how many it was. It was a whole bunch of them signed a letter or something, uh, saying that they supported her and didn't want her fired. So there's kind of been pushback back and forth as far as the issue of her remaining as the president of Harvard. And I think we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the fallout from this. The first person I'm going to bring up here is some tweets from Ibermex Kindi. If you don't know who he is, I don't know how you couldn't. If you're watching me already at this point, you must know who he is. Okay, so hopefully that pops up. I'm hoping it's big enough for you to read. I don't know how sharing tweets this way will work. It's something I'll have to check out later. But you can see here, Ibermex Kindi. This man is like a what would you call him? He's a professor, I suppose. He's a DEI anti-racist activist. So he's like a very woke, sort of kind of progressive racial activist. Uh, this guy lost his mind over this. Not that he wasn't crazy already, and this wouldn't be totally expected for like anybody that's familiar with him remotely and some of his insane takes on politics. But here's what he tweets out when he learns of this tragic news that Claudine Gay has been like forced to resign from Harvard. He says, "When a racist mob attacks a black person, it finds a seemingly legitimate reason for the attack that allows for it to accrue popular support and credibility, and which allows for the growing mob to deny they are attacking the person in this way because the person is black." Okay. uh, a couple problems with that. A seeming finds a seemingly legitimate reason. Okay, what if they just find an actual legitimate reason? And what if that's actually the reason they're attacking that person and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're black? What would that look like? Would that look like exactly what has taken place with Claudine Gay? I would argue, yeah, that is exactly what it would look like. And why do I think that? Well, let's take a look at this handy uh, reader note or community notes, whatever they call these things, supplied to us by Twitter here. It was very useful. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Other presidents of elite universities who are not black lost their jobs for similar reasons in 2023, including the president of Stanford. Resigned after remarks regarding the genocide. Yeah. And the Penn State president also resigned. And I think the MIT, I'm not sure if MIT did too or not. Um, but essentially, what this is saying is a couple of the other presidents in there had already lost their jobs. And these were the presidents that were alongside Claudine Gay at that congressional hearing and stuff. Were already forced to resign, and they weren't black. The only thing that had been saving Claudine Gay was probably the fact that she is black, because Harvard liked having her as professor, or not professor. I keep saying that. I keep switching professor and president. Sorry. They liked having her as president a lot because of her race and her gender. And they didn't want to lose her because she had those qualities. That's a lot of the reason it seems like they were all signing those letters and fighting so hard and all of this stuff. They didn't fight as hard at the other universities to save those other presidents. Didn't seem like. So, if there's a double standard with regard to this, it feels like it runs in the other direction, actually, which sort of makes sense when you think about what these universities are. These universities are not like the broader world, okay? They're not like broader America. They're weird little worlds of like woke hive mind hyper extremism. They're crazy. They're nut houses, okay? So they don't think the same way as everyone else. They don't operate the same way as everyone else over there. So anyway, that was just one of his tweets. I could have kept reading them. They're all kind of along those lines. He's just making this all out to be some like savage attack on her. Like, what were some of the other stuff he said? He goes on. That was like a 4-part tweet, by the way. That was just the first part. It was a whole thread about anti-blackness, racist attacks have been justified, blah 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 blah. The attack on gay was, yeah, it. He's been losing his crap. If you want to see some more of his stuff, I think I retweeted him, but you can go check him out yourself. He's over there tweeting up a freaking storm. Gay wasn't qualified, and the tide is turning against woke DEI, and this is just the beginning of the end for woke. That's apparently his freaking nightmare. Whatever. I'm getting distracted. Oh, yeah, and I already took him off the screen, so you guys can't see it. Whatever. My bad. The next Harvard president must be a transgender, queer, native black woman. I've actually, like, I assume you're joking. I don't know. I'm not sure who is Eldon Mike. Not sure who you are, but you might be someone I know. I don't know. I assume you're joking, but I have heard things essentially to that effect, where people were saying, not quite that, but they were saying it must be another black woman. It has to be. It has to be. They've taken one from us. They have to give us one back. That's such a weird. It's a bizarre world these people live in. Anyway, I'll bring up some video here. What should the first one be? Let me see. Let me check on my stream and make sure it's all going good there. Yeah, seems all right. Okay. I guess we'll start with one of my favorite people on this earth, Joy Reid. I used to watch her a lot actually because she's so crazy that she's actually kind of entertaining because she just like she just like makes stuff up. like, like she just lies so blatantly, like, and obviously on national television, on like cable news. It's just so bizarre that this exists. But all right, so here she is with two buddies of her, I guess. Oh well, I'm joking. You know me. Oh, okay, progressive apostate. All right, yeah, yeah, cool, man. Good to see her back. So, yeah, we're here with Joy Reid. Let's see what she has to say about this situation, this atrocity.
I do want to just pivot to another thing because there's another thing happening, Jelani. There is this sort of open war on Black progress, Black history. Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard University, at least up.
That's what this is. It's an open war on Black progress. Really? That's what this is about? That's the motivation behind this? You would think if this were an open war on Black progress, why would this not be happening? Why wouldn't they be just going after like random Black presidents of universities or like professors or Black people that are just successful in any field? If that's what this was about, you would imagine they would be going on witch hunts for like, I don't know, Black CEOs and stuff and actors and rich people. But no, it was specifically her. And it has, like, you would think, and Joy Reid knows that's a lie. To be clear, like she works in the news. She knows the reasons they have come for her. She knows it's about her the thing she said in that congressional hearing that got those other college presidents fired who were not Black. That's kind of the main reason. And then there's also all the plagiarism stuff which justified it too. She knows that. Okay, so what she just said there was just, that's what I was talking about. That's what makes her entertaining. She'll just say something completely wild like that, wild and inflammatory on national news. No one even bats an eye, except, I guess, me. But I don't know. It's just crazy to me that someone can get on national TV and just say crap like that. All right, let's continue.
Until she resigned, is now the latest casualty of that. Christopher Rufo, who is out there touting and high-fiving and claiming the scalp of Claudine Gay, telegraphed that this.
That's another thing I haven't mentioned, I don't think, yet. Christopher Rufo, someone I'm somewhat familiar with. Actually, I think I reacted to his interview with Joy Reid. I believe I did. I don't remember. He's the guy that got everyone kind of stirred up about critical race theory. And I thought it was brilliant what he did. He essentially took like woke people tactics and used it against them to destroy wokeness. It was kind of brilliant. He took a term that they had and he redefined it into meaning just essentially crazy progressive race politics and just slapped it on. He's like, this is what that is, and we're going to destroy it and get it out of universities. And the thing itself, critical race theory, is racist and it's bad and it's awful and all those things, but it isn't all the things. It's, they're right when they're like, it's not taught in like elementary schools or whatever, technically, but it's like it's influenced a lot of the teaching of the kind of progressive nonsense and crap that they've tried to push on kids. So he's sort of the guy that's his backstory. Kind of, I think, how he got famous. He was probably already a little famous, I think, before that. But he's the one that's really been going after this lady, especially on the plagiarism stuff. He's kind of been digging through her stuff and finding the plagiarism things and all that. So that's why she's got a problem with him.
Was what they were going to do, that they were going to associate these DEI professors of colleges with BLM and decolonization and Hamas in the public mind.
Okay, wait a minute. How is... Well, hold up. I think I have to hear that again. I'm not even sure. What?
Colleges with BLM and decolonization and Hamas of Claudine Gay telegraphed that this was what they were going to do, that they were going to associate these DEI professors of colleges with BLM and decolonization and Hamas in the public mind and get rid of them. He's now...
Were those people... Hold up. They were going to associate those people, the DEI professors, with BLM and what was the other stuff she said? And Hamas and these things. It's like, did they not associate themselves with those things? Maybe not Hamas, but definitely BLM. What was the other one she said? I can't even keep track of it.
And decolonization and Hamas in the public mind.
Do they not associate themselves with BLM and decolonization? I feel like they do. I feel like they really do. And I don't feel like that's conservatives slapping those things on them. Hamas, that kind of depends. Some of them, I think, absolutely do. They're a little hesitant on that one because it's like an actual, labeled terrorist group. But I think some do. But yeah, the decolonization and BLM stuff, that's like ubiquitous at universities. That's not even just like whatever you would call DEI professors. That's even mostly like the regular liberal professors, I think, would be on board with that kind of crap. Anyway, I'll let this go on. That's just mind-boggling to me. That's just not something Chris Rufo slapped them with. But yeah, he was going to show that to people and try and get them removed for it. And it's like, well, good. The universities have a massive problem. They have a massive problem when it comes to this crap.
And get rid of them. He's now claiming victory. He telegraphed that this was the campaign. Why are these elite colleges capitulating to it and essentially making it so uncomfortable for these women leaders that they have to step down to be replaced by white men?
Oh, that's what's going to happen. She's going to be replaced by a white man. We actually don't know who's going to replace her yet. And I really think that has nothing to do with their goal. You know why I think that? Because they went after these people, Rufo and people like him and the conservatives, regardless of what race they were and what gender they were. They didn't seem to care about that at all. They seemed to care about the things that they believed and their politics and the ideas that they were pushing. That seemed to be the reason they went after them, Joy. And I think Joy knows that. I think Joy here knows that really well. Yeah, so should I let them continue? I felt like I had one more thing to comment on there, but we'll let it go.
Because that is the goal of Christopher Rufo and his gang.
The same thing, we saw the same thing with critical race theory, where again, he telegraphed and said that, he was going to associate that term with every negative connotation that people could imagine, irrespective of what the term actually represented. A very specific and particular body of legal scholarship around the efficaciousness of civil rights litigation. Very highly particular kinds of scholarly inquiry.
Yeah, he did, and it was based.
But by the time he was done, it was kind of Cold War, McCarthyite level hysteria. And so the same thing, they're running the same playbook, except now we have kind of individuals that are being attached to it. And for the record, when we saw Elise Stefanik, Representative Stefanik, tweet that she would always deliver in the aftermath of the resignation, it was like, was that something you campaigned on? Was that your district wanted? Like we voted for you in order for you to dispatch the president of Harvard University? So this is pure culture warfare here in the guise of...
Does he think Elise Stefanik's voter base is going to have an issue with what she did with getting rid of that. You think they're going to side with the president of Harvard? I sort of doubt it. Sort of doubt it.
Of intellectual inquiry and ethical concern.
Yeah, and there's no intellectual inquiry about it. They're just trying to take out any woman or person of color.
Again, this is like the third time she said this. It's like the third time. And she knows it's not true. Again, I've repeated this several times. She knows that isn't true. And it's obvious that that's not what's true. Because the other presidents that they went after were not people of color. They're not going after just any random people. They're not just plucking out random, like, oh, this is a person of color that's a woman, and we've got to get rid of that because we're terrified. Do you think they would be doing that if she agreed, if she was a conservative? Do you believe, or if she was just even just a like a liberal that like wasn't like didn't have a woke brain rot? Do you think that would have happened to her? Doubtful. Extremely doubtful. I mean, it probably, well, I shouldn't say that. Claudine Gay is a bad example, actually, because she plagiarized a bunch of crap. So there's almost an apolitical aspect to this, really. It's they found out that stuff, I think, because they were motivated by their political reasons. But if that had been found out by, I think, anyone else, she might have been okay, actually, because if that had just been found out kind of internally, they might have like brushed it under the rug, which they wanted to do. Apparently, seems like they wanted to do that specifically because Claudine Gay was a black woman. That's what it seemed like. But anyway, we'll let Joy continue here.
Who leads elite universities so they can give them to the people they prefer, which is the guys used to have in the 50s. Jelani Cobb, that is me saying that, not you. Jelani Cobb, thank you. David Jolly, thank you.
All right. So that's the end of that one. Like I said, I think Joy Reid is a very entertaining person. I think she's kind of funny because of like just how over the top and blatant she is when she like lies on national news and like just stirs up racial tension for no reason. It's well, not for no reason, I guess, so she can be popular and get a lot of views on her show. I mean, it kind of works, I guess. Like I watched her, so whatever. The last one we'll look at here. How long have I been on here? Don't want to stay on too long here. 20 minutes. Oh yeah, we got plenty of time. We're gonna go over to a channel. Like, I don't know what it's Democracy Now. Are they like a real? I can't tell if this is like a real, like a news show or it's just a YouTube channel. The lines have been so blurred when it comes to that between like, something like CNN versus something like the Young Turks, where like I can flip on my regular TV sometimes and just see the Young Turks on certain channels and stuff. And so it's really weird. So I don't know if this is that kind of a thing, if it's like an internet news channel or like a cable news channel, or I really don't know. I think it's an internet deal, but it's hard to tell because it's this old lady who sort of presents herself. I'll bring it up here so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see the trouble I have placing this. Maybe you know what Democracy Now is. They seem exceptionally woke and crazy, I guess might be a way to put it. How the GOP ousted Harvard. There it is. All right. So there you go. This is what I'm talking about here. Yeah, like I don't know. They do have like a weird watermark, so I'm assuming this is like an internet deal. But it's kind of a news show, and she's going to bring on some other professor from Harvard, and they're going to talk about the tragedy that has befallen them.
.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Amy
The
Goodman.
first African American and second woman to lead Harvard University resigned Tuesday after allegations of plagiarism and backlash over her testimony at a congressional hearing on anti-Semitism last month. That's part of a broader effort to restrict pro-Palestinian speech on college campuses.
Oh, is that what they're doing? It's part of a broader effort to restrict pro-Palestinian speech. See, I seem to remember the kind of question that went viral that they were asking her about was about restricting speech that was calling for a Jewish genocide. That's what I remember hearing. But apparently, Amy Goodman here heard it was pro-Palestinian speech. Maybe that is pro-Palestinian speech. I don't know. Like maybe you could. I guess it could be. You know, who knows? Like maybe that's part of their agenda. Maybe that's what they mean when they say pro-Palestinian. I don't know if you want to link those two things. You kind of just did, but I don't know if that would really serve your cause very well to link pro-Palestinian speech with genocide. But that's what she did. So we'll continue here.
Claudine Gay's 6-month tenure is the shortest of any Harvard president in history. Claudine Gay will remain at Harvard as a tenured professor of government and African American studies. In a letter Tuesday, she wrote, quote, "It's been distressing
they're going to keep her around. So she's going to stay around as a professor in spite of these, the allegations of plagiarism and all this stuff, which seemed to have been flushed out and like seemed to be completely legitimate. Like there doesn't seem to even be, I haven't seen any disagreement about the fact that she plagiarized stuff and that this was widespread over her whole academic career. Really, there are people that are downplaying it and saying like, well, this isn't that bad. It's not like the most serious thing. She just left out some quotation marks, but she cited it. And then other stuff where you see it and it's like she took like half a page and just copied and pasted it into her whatever paper or whatever. So I don't know. I guess I'm just pointing that out to say there seems to be some contention to it, but not that much. The consensus seems to be that yeah, she plagiarized stuff and it was inappropriate. The people that are downplaying it all seem to be doing that for political reasons, I guess. But I don't know. I'm not a legal expert on what constitutes plagiarism, so I couldn't tell you other than there seems to be no argument over the fact that she did plagiarize things.
To have doubt cast on my commitments to confronting hate and to upholding scholarly.
And that's kind of amazing. This is kind of an amazing quote here. It has been distressing to have doubt cast on my commitments to confronting hate and to upholding scholarly rigor, two bedrock values that are fundamental to who I am. Both of those are kind of the reason you're in this situation in the first place, lady. That's kind of how you got here. It seems like those maybe are not bedrock values that are fundamental to who you are, and that's what got exposed. And it's kind of, again, astonishing that they've allowed you to remain on as a professor. It's sort of weird. If you'd plagiarized that much, like, would they not have? They'd kick students out of universities when they find them plagiarizing, right? Or at least they fail them. They fail the course, and I think if they do it more than once, you get kicked out. And I think that's how it worked at our college. I can't imagine that they have less strict standards over at Harvard. So why would they make exceptions for the freaking professors? That's a bit bizarre. But okay.
Rigor, two bedrock values that are fundamental to who I am, and frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus, she wrote. The plagiarism allegations against President Gay were part of a campaign started last month, led in part by conservative.
All right, we've already been over this. She's just explaining all of the background. I'm going to skip to where she brings on this guy. He's kind of wild. What's his name? I don't know. He's like a Harvard professor of like race history or something like that at Harvard. So I'm sure he's going to have a totally like level-headed response to this.
Blackness, race, crime, and the making of modern urban America.
Oh boy. The condemnation of blackness. Yeah, this is going to be good.
Professor, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. First, if you can respond to, and were you surprised by, the resignation of Claudine Gay yesterday?
Thanks, Amy, for having me on. I have to admit,
he's going to say it was worse than 9/11.
I wasn't surprised, but I was extremely disappointed. This is a terrible moment for higher education. Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania are just the beginning. The political attacks that you've just profiled by Elise Stefanik and most other members of the House committee that held those hearings on December 5th have actually declared war on the independence, on academic freedom, on the truth of American history and our present at all colleges and universities, just as Governor DeSantis has done in Florida and Greg Abbott has done in Texas and other governors and legislative bodies in many other states. This is the next step in now a 3-year-long campaign to destroy this country's capacity to address its past and its present, to deal with the structural racism, the systemic inequalities that cause premature death amongst millions of Americans.
I like this guy, like all of these kind of, you know, hyper progressive woke people. He ties in so many other, like, it's like they have to tie together all of their like woke political issues, weave them into every conversation, whatever it is. Like that's what he's doing here. He's like, oh, well, this is all about, you know, it's not just this. This is a small piece of this broader nefarious campaign where they're like, they're trying to like, you know, create all the reinforce systemic racism and uphold the structures of anti-blackness and just like going off. It's like, no, dude, the professor, the president, I did it again. The president of Harvard resigned from being the president, and she's still going to be a professor over at Harvard. My guy, like, chill out here. And it's not that I even disagree. Like, if you know, I think it would be a good thing if they had like what would you call it? Anti-DEI, anti-woke campaigns throughout all of education. I think that'd be great. I don't think there's any educational merit or value at all to any of their garbage. Just none. I think it's worse. I think you end up learning things that are not true and are stupid whenever you push that crap. It's like such a wild. It's like, to me, it's as bad as you know, in the conservatives and the really religious conservatives were trying to push like young Earth creationism and stuff in schools. That's a real thing they did. That was not even that long ago. I think the last time we had a big kerfuffle about that was in like 2009, which, as I say that, I realized that was a long time ago. Actually, that was a long time. It was more than 10 years ago. Jesus. But yeah, it's the same kind of crap. These people, the history they're pushing is a lie. Like we reached the point a long time ago where they stopped, you know, teaching this sort of whitewashed history of American history. That hasn't been happening. It definitely didn't happen in my lifetime. They'll say like, you know, they don't teach slavery in school. They absolutely do. They teach it's a bad thing. They teach all about it. They teach it's the cause of the Civil War. And they've been doing that everywhere for a long time. The people that say this, I feel like they are either lying or just weren't paying attention in school themselves, because you can go get history textbooks from years and years and years ago. You can go get modern ones today. You can look up the sections where they talk about this stuff. Like this guy brought up Florida, and you know, he's saying, oh, they're getting rid of all of this stuff there. You can go read it for yourself. They do teach about it. Like, it's not like I feel like they, I don't know. I'm torn. People like this, I'm not sure if they just read that and they have like such a biased, crazy lens that they look through stuff that it just filters out of their brain or something, or if they're just lying. And I don't know why they would be, but I mean, I guess they have political motivations. Anyway, we'll let this madman continue to speak.
Every year. And right now, the Republicans and their allies are winning.
So if you can put Claudine Gay's Gay in context, the first Black president, the first Black woman president, the second woman to lead Harvard University. Now her presidency is the shortest in Harvard's history.
Ouch.
And put in the context of the whole attack on DEI, the whole attack on critical race theory. And if you can talk about this campaign by Stefanik, by Rufo, as they go from the congressional hearing, which didn't succeed
The fact that Harvard's the oldest, wealthiest, most prestigious university in this country and globally. So for almost 400
I mean,
years.
well, it sure used to be. It's kind of a joke now. They kind of got, pie on their face at the moment. Their president was just accused and seemingly rightfully accused of committing a lot of plagiarism throughout her entire academic career. That's kind of an embarrassing thing. And she also said some sort of embarrassing stuff at a congressional hearing, some sort of messed up stuff. Seems like, and I think it's the hypocrisy too with that congressional hearing thing. There, because if they were just like some big free speech bastion where it's like anything goes here, we'll allow our students to say whatever they want as long as it falls under the First Amendment and they can have chance about that. If that really was who they were, I don't feel like it would have been as big of a deal, because then they would say, they could point to all these other cases and be like, yeah, we allow them to say that. That's First Amendment speech and their students here, and we don't agree with it, but that's who we are. And then point over to, like, I don't know what you would have on the other side of that. Say you have like a conservative, like religious group on campus that was like anti-gay, and say, yeah, they had their thing and they said all about that, but that would never be allowed there. If they had like a conservative religious group that was against gay marriage or something, or like a pro-life group, even, maybe I have to look into a little more. Maybe those aren't their particular issues, but I feel like they wouldn't be very tolerant of that. Or if they had, they could point to like, yeah, we had these kids saying this other offensive stuff, whatever it would be, and they could just say, look at this. There's these other things that people are saying we don't like, but we still let them remain. I feel like they wouldn't have gotten into so much trouble.
Harvard has systematically excluded white women and people of color, by and large, from its hallowed corridors, from entering its gates.
White
That's
women and
just an
people of
absolute
color.
fact. A fact that the university under the previous president, Larry Bacow, admitted to in a report.
What does this have to do with anything?
Called the Harvard Legacy of Slavery report that was issued just over a year ago. A report that points out precisely how not only did the university exclude people of color from getting an education, but in fact collected the bodies of indigenous people and enslaved people for scientific research, and led into the 20th century calls for scientific racism that helped to construct the racial hierarchies that we still live within this country today. That's Harvard's own history as a leader. So the very university that finally arrived at a moment where it not only reckoned with its own history, but also recognized that talent is universal, and that the best of us actually have the ability to move this country and world forward in a time when the planet.
Is he talking about Claudine Gay being the best of us? I feel like not, man. I feel like you could do a lot better. Honestly, I feel like you could get somebody that, didn't plagiarize stuff and doesn't like fumble all over themselves and say a bunch of stupid crap during a congressional hearing. I feel like you can do better.
It is literally on fire, and most people who will suffer most from that will be people of color.
On fire. You talking about climate change now? You talking about climate change now? The world's going to be on fire and all these islands get set. But what are you talking about, man? Stay on topic, dude. We're talking about the president of the university resigning. Come on here, man.
That is the context that brought Claudine Gay to the presidency, and she was ably and.
That's the context that brought Claudine Gay to the presidency. She was here to save the world from burning. Literally, she was there to prevent the end of the world. That's the context that this happened in.
Excellently qualified for that role. She had proven herself in previous administrative roles as dean of the largest.
She's here because she plagiarized a bunch of crap, man. Wouldn't one of the qualifications be like academic honesty? You think that would be kind of important, right?
School on Harvard's campus. So when we put that in context, the affirmative action decision last June was the first victory for the conservative right in this country to dismantle the very possibility that people like Claudine Gay would have the qualifications, the Harvard and Stanford degrees
Whoa.
necessary to take on such positions.
Oh, dude. He's saying the only reason, ow, damn, he's saying, like, I think what he just said there was that was their first attack to get people like Claudine Gay out of here because she wouldn't have the credentials of a Harvard degree in this stuff without affirmative action. Is that what he just said? Like, she wouldn't be there were it not for affirmative action? That's kind of what it sounded like. That's sort of an insulting thing to say about Claudine Gay. Like, you wouldn't be here if you didn't get like an extra step up. Like, if you weren't allowed to get in with lesser qualifications than people that didn't have your specific demographic identities. That's kind of what he said. It seemed like that's pretty messed up. Was Harvard the university? Which university was it? Whenever they released that, no more discriminating based on race or whatever, the anti-affirmative action ruling, was it Harvard that like took that little snippet where it said something like you can consider, I think it said you can consider race and gender and these things as sort of I forget how they said it. They said that you could take that into consideration about other life things or something like that. And Harvard pulled out that little piece and was like, that's what we're going to do. I don't remember if that was Harvard. One of the universities said it. Wouldn't surprise me. Harvard seems to be like one of the most radical out there.
Positions. And so within that political context, the attack on affirmative action is one example of what's been going on, which is 30 years old, a battle. But additionally, and more proximate to this moment, people like Christopher Rufo in late 2020, in response to George Floyd's killing, have initiated an effort, what we would call a white lash or a backlash,
why isn't my mouse working?
Of misinformation to essentially define a body of knowledge known as critical race theory that is the intellectual.
Okay. God, it took me like 5 minutes just to pause it there. My mouse was freaking out. The cursor. Let me test this. Is it moving around? All right. Now it seems to be fine, but it was like glitching out. I couldn't move it across the screen here. Okay. And I already lost my point. That made me lose my point. Thanks, man. You distracted me. But he was going off talking about like George Floyd. Again, this is what I'm talking about, where they shoehorn in all of this irrelevant crap where it's like, this is in the context of George Floyd and climate change and just every freaking thing under the sun. How about, maybe none of that stuff is actually relevant to this particular situation? Maybe actually none of it is. Maybe it's really just about her and what she said in that hearing and her plagiarism. Maybe that's all there is to it. There's not some giant, broader narrative and all this other crap.
Basis for understanding how systemic and structural racism work as anti-American, as Marxist, as a threat to American civilization.
Whoa.
And that led to 24 states.
Whoa. Are you telling me it's not that stuff? Hold up. I'm going to rewind this a second.
Race theory that is the intellectual flash, forms of misinformation to essentially define a body of knowledge known as critical race theory that is the intellectual basis for understanding how systemic and structural racism work as anti-American.
Okay, whoa. If it's the intellectual basis for understanding how systemic and structural racism work, then do they not, it would seem to me then, anywhere they're teaching that kind of a thing, systemic and structural racism type stuff, is going to be including elements of critical race theory. It's based on critical race theory, right? Because they do teach crap like that, or they try to in certain places, in public schools. And they teach it in other places and DEI, work stuff, things that are based on that. And then did I let him finish or did he go through?
Marxist as a threat to American civilization. And that
as it's Marxist, it is Marxist, man. Is that what he just said?
A body of knowledge known as critical race theory that is the intellectual basis for understanding how systemic and structural racism work as anti-American, as Marxist, as
it is those things. It's obviously those things. The founders of critical race theory would tell you that. They don't even try to hide that it's Marxist. That it's Marxist is absolutely unarguable. Okay? The people that founded it would tell you to your face that yeah, we're influenced by Marxism. Like there are elements of Marxism all throughout this, and we studied that, and that's what we believe, and that's what inspired us here. And the anti-American thing, I think they would 100% agree with that too. I think they would say they're anti-American because I think they would say America is like has an evil system of systemic racism that's structural and built into the genetics of the country and it's foundational and blah blah blah. I don't even know how you could argue that. And it's Chris Rufo. Well, he pointed that out to some people, but I don't see how you could say that's not in there. That isn't something that critical, like, you really going to tell me critical race theory is pro-American in its outlook? You going to say that it has nothing to do with Marxism? Wasn't influenced by? They write in their books that it is. So God, this guy's a professor at Harvard also, by the way. Just so you know, he teaches this kind of stuff.
As a threat to American civilization. And that led to 24 states criminalizing the teaching of history in all its truth about race, about racism.
Oh, what a friggin' liar. And he's a professor. 24 states criminalize the teaching of history in all of its truth. That's such bullshit, man. It's like I said earlier, you can actually go look at any of those bills that they pass in any of those places. It's totally unobjectionable stuff. Completely unobjectionable stuff. And when you look at what they teach, it's pretty just standard, regular American history, which I assume this guy would freaking hate. And I think he is. Didn't they say he was a history professor at Harvard? It's like, God, ridiculous. The idea, as I said, you can go look into any of their textbooks. They're not teaching, they're not allowing this kind of shit to be taught. That's what they're not allowing. They're not allowing all the critical race theory crazy stuff. But they do teach about slavery extensively. God. If I can get this video to play again, I will. Here we go.
About sex, about gender. That led to the banning of DEI in places like Florida and to some degree in Texas. And what we saw.
The banning of DEI teaching in places like Florida and Texas. Yeah, that's fucking base. DEI sucks.
Happened here with this campaign against Claudine Gay, where plagiarism became the pretext, kind of like a black motorist with tinted windows being stopped only to look for drugs so that they...
Kind of like that. Kind of like a black motorist being pulled over while black so that the cops can harass him and search for drugs. It's kind of like that. This situation's kind of like that. It's kind of not like that at all, dude. That's kind of like the most insane, like, schizophrenic thing I've ever heard anyone say. It's not like that at all, man. They had some political motivation for going after her, but they also found some just like legitimate things that weren't political in nature at all, which they could complain about with her, which would be the plagiarism. And then when you're talking about the political stuff too, the thing that they were complaining about with that wasn't like a very conservative, type of thing, a very one-sided type of thing. There was pretty broad agreement that what she had said in that hearing and the way she handled that and the way Harvard was handling that whole situation was terrible. That was like middle of the road, independent kind of centrist, left, center right. And well, everyone on the right obviously didn't like her, but all of those people were agreeing. It was only like the far left that would, sitting there like, yeah, I don't see any issue with this. It seems totally normal and unbiased for her to be saying that stuff.
They could be incarcerated as part of a war on Black people during mass incarceration.
Oh my God.
That is the context where Christopher Rufo, who initiated the critical race theory anti-woke campaign, has now culminated in yet another victory with taking.
This goes on for like 10 more minutes. I don't know if I can watch this whole thing. How long have I been on here already? Have I served my time yet? 49 minutes. You think that's long enough? Let's see what he says here.
Down Claudine Gay over a very, very minor offense within academic context.
Very, very, very minor. Again, I suppose, like, I'm not an expert on that, on plagiarism and that type of thing. That's not what I've heard, man. That's not what I've heard. I've heard some people saying that. When I've looked at it, there were a lot of like minor, what I would think of as minor things where it seemed like, okay, she left out some quote marks, but she cited it, you know? And then there was other stuff where it was like just a copy and paste of like what the person had said with no attribution. So I don't know. It seems like there was a lot of minor things and then a few pretty major things.
We're talking to Khalil Gibran Muhammad, professor of history, race, and public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School. I want to turn to an op-ed published in the Harvard Crimson.
All right, I think we've seen enough. We're going over to an op-ed. Anytime this lady Amy starts talking, I start to fall asleep. So the crazy guy comes back on. They talk about this. Maybe. No, I think we're good. I think we get the point. I feel like I'm just going to be repeating myself at this point. Okay, so I think everyone understands the situation. We understand that this is like a national tragedy. They should lower the flags to half mast, I think. It's I don't know how we're ever going to recover from this. Who knows? Interesting day on the internet, I guess. I guess looking forward for the channel and stuff, I'm going to probably not be uploading as frequently as I have been. I think I've uploaded something like every day since I made this channel. So I'm probably going to slow down now that I've got quite a few things up there. So this, I'll probably be going to like a weekly, trying to do like something once a week, whether it's a stream or a video or whatever. But we'll see how it goes. Once, my schedule's kind of getting back to normal now. I think everyone's is, since the holidays are over and all of that. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, have a great night, everybody.